Hello, and welcome to another episode of Kingdom News. This is our Kingdom Spotlight segment of the show, and this should be a familiar name, if not familiar face, to the Kingdom Purpose TV listeners. Shakita Jackson is one of the members of Kingdom Purpose TV staff, and most of you who have platforms or shows on here have had some connection with her. So I'm excited to have her on with us this morning. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit. There's so much you could tell us, but tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Shakita Jackson. I work with onboarding at KPTV. So if you may not have seen my face, you've probably gotten an email from me. So I'm glad to allow you to see me in person. But again, I reside in Virginia, and I'm a mom of 4 women, 4 ladies. Have 3 of them are in college and 1 is in high school. But I'm a minister here locally at my local church. And also I have my own ministry segments here also on KPTV and other places. So with that as well, I am a business owner. I'm in a nonprofit space. I have a nonprofit called Care for Me Youth Initiatives, and that's a local initiative here in my area. And it's designed to assist young mothers that may need strategies, education, support to actually learn how to parent as a teenager, to parent their children. I also have a completely free diaper pantry where local moms, they don't have to be teenagers, but local moms can call in and I will tell them set times where they can just pick up diapers from me as well. And I'm expanding different things out with that. I'm really hoping to create a literacy, reading, writing, and math camp in my home city here this summer, a free camp. So I'm praying for that and hoping for that to take place here. And I also, with my daughters, I have a beauty supplier creating natural skincare and hair care products entitled Revel Bells Beauty, which is revelbells.com. I have a medical practice here with my husband doing home health care and medical assisting and virtual medical assisting activities and CPR training. And on my own side, I am a leadership coach. I'm finishing my doctoral degree in strategic business leadership. And with that, I currently now help career professionals or executives, community leaders, ministry leaders, as well as entrepreneurs create plans to lead and expand their organization and just to be effective at their position of leadership in their organization. So I do believe those are some of my roles and activities. Thank you, Gwen.
I'm exhausted listening to you.
I'm exhausted saying it.
I thought that I had a lot to manage and a lot to juggle, but that is quite a bit that you do. But hey, listen, it seems that you are doing it well. So kudos and congratulations
Grace.
to you. Yes, absolutely. So you recently released a new book, correct?
Yes.
So when was the book released?
The 1st of February, Black History Month.
Okay, so it was released February 1st. Give us the title of the book.
Okay, so the book, which is here, the book is Do You See Me Trying to Breathe? A faith-based journey from the imprisonment of anxiety and panic attacks. And it has the book, and there's a self-reflective journal for the personal writing.
Nice. Okay, so how did this book come about?
So this book is birthed out of a very vulnerable period of time in my life. And, I'm not that old, Gwen. So this actually started occurring maybe when I was, I had probably about 19, 20 years old when I realized that something in my life drastically changed and something happened that I couldn't control. And I was going about my life. I was a mom. I had 2 kids at this particular time. I worked in the hospital because I've always been in the medical field. So I worked in the hospital. And one day I was on my way home from work, and all of a sudden, it's like my heart fell out of me. And I didn't know what it was then, but now I know that it was a panic attack. So just one day when I thought everything was cool, I didn't have any major stresses in my life. It was a normal routine that I was going through, taking care of my family and working and so forth. And my life drastically changed. And from that day forward, it was a long road of discovery, a long road of healing, a long road of secrets, because most people didn't know that I was battling every day just to breathe. Every day I tried to figure out, how am I going to breathe through the day? So hence the title, Do You See Me Trying to Breathe? Because I was trying to function in a world, but I was struggling on the inside. And a lot of people didn't see it. Most folks didn't ask, so Do You See Me Trying to Breathe is the title of this particular book. And my journey of discovery, God just miraculously showing up in my life. And it didn't happen in one day or 1 week. It was a journey of some years of recovery and years of being determined to live and not die, because there were periods where I felt like I was just going to die every portion of the day. So years of deliverance. And now I came to the point where I knew I had this story for many years, and I knew God did something miraculous in my life. And I knew I wanted to tell it, but I never wrote it down to tell it. So now we have COVID. Now most people's lives are changing. So now we're home. So we're able to be more attentive to what's going on the outside, because we want to know everything that's outside, because we stuck on the inside, right? So now with COVID, I'm hearing of the suicide rate skyrocketing. You have families, marriages that have been together for 20 plus years, but now they're stuck in a home together. Marriages are falling apart. You have people losing jobs that they've been working for 20 years. You have all of this uncertainty and all of these worries, all this care, and all of these anxieties. The rate of new diagnosis for anxiety and panic attacks skyrocketed. The people who made attempts to commit suicide skyrocketed. The rate of depression soared. So now I'm sitting like, Lord, I see all of this that's going on, and you want to ask yourself, what can I do? What can I do in my own power? And when I asked that question, that's what came up. I had a story in me, something that God did miraculously, changed my whole life, and I never put it to paper. So I'm like, oh my goodness, shame on me. Shame on me for concealing a miracle. Shame on me for concealing deliverance, because I didn't know how people was going to perceive the story. Especially when you go through something in your mind, your mental health, your emotions, that's such a vulnerable place. You don't know how people are going to deal with that vulnerable part of you, especially if you don't see yourself there anymore. And I didn't see myself where I'm not there anymore. So it's like, well, how would somebody see me now? How would they receive me now from what I've been through? So I realized it was like 20 years. It was concealed. So I made up my mind that I was not going to dishonor God anymore by not telling my story, that I didn't care how people received it. She had anxiety this bad. And I'm not talking about just being anxious. I'm not talking about just, twiddling your thumb, obsessively cleaning, or, your legs shaking, or, every now and then you feel short of breath. No, I'm talking about anxiety so bad that I locked myself in the house for over 3 months because I could not go outside. I stopped going to work. I couldn't function there. I stopped going to school. I was in school at the time at a local community college. I couldn't function there. I couldn't function in any part of my life. And I stayed in the house with my kids for over 3 months until I decided one day that if I had to crawl on the porch, I was going to crawl on the porch, because I needed to be free for my kids. So I'm not just talking about, a story of just being anxious. No, I'm talking about a story of being handicapped, being a debilitating anxiety and panic attacks. And this past year, last year, I was ending a class because again, I'm a student. I'm in school again. Lord help me, but I'm a student. So I was ending my class and I'm sitting there, Gwen. So now, you have your professor with the syllabus and all of this stuff, and you're constantly writing papers. I'm constantly writing papers all week long. So I'm constantly typing. I'm constantly creating these research papers and telling other people's stories. I'm doing this. I'm always telling somebody else's story. So I told my husband, I said, you know what? When I determined that I was not going to dishonor God by not sharing again, I told him I will not register for another class. I won't do it. I won't pay an institution. I won't fulfill another research paper assignment. I won't do anything. I will not. I refuse to write another paper if I don't write my own story. So I said, I'm not going back to school until I get this story out. And my husband say now that that's when he knew I was really serious about writing it. Because I had said over the years that, you know what, I'm going to write a book about it. But he knew I was serious when I said I wasn't going to do another thing until I wrote my own story. So that's what I did. Class ended. I wrote the book, and by November, I believe it was done. And I wanted to release it on Black History Month, and wrote the book, and I was able to re-enroll myself back in school in January. But the story is so impactful, and I'm so full right now over the just a response, because you never know how people is going to handle your secrets. No, how are you going to handle these secrets that I'm about to tell you, because you see me now, but how are you going to handle these secrets? And now with the response, now with people just starting to read the book, my phone is blowing up. Like I told you, I had 2 impromptu radio interviews this weekend. I had a book signing, and the local bookstore on this past Saturday, the local bookstore people, invited some people. They invited some people, but the link they sent was their Eventbrite. So I didn't have access to know if anyone even signed up for it, right? So I didn't know if anybody was going to be at this book signing. I knew my husband was coming. So I figured if no one show up, it's just going to be me, him, and the lady who owned the bookstore. It's just going to be us in there. And I chose that bookstore because it's a small, local, Black-owned bookstore who opened up on Juneteenth. And I was like, look, if I want to go anywhere and talk about this work on Black History Month, it's going to be there. So with that, I didn't know if I was just showing up. So when I got there on Saturday, I said, okay, well, I don't know if anybody registered. And she was like, what you mean? All of your sessions are packed out. And I was like, what? She said, people want to hear someone talk about anxiety that had it bad. And I'm still amazed. Every book I had was sold.
Wow.
And still left with orders. So I'm so overwhelmed with the fact that, and I've been getting texts since I woke up this morning, people who have had the book that may not know me, they are starting to follow me on social media and send me messages. So I'm getting messages even this morning about the fact that they're just so happy that their secrets, their precious things, their jewels that they did not tell anyone, they were able to get relief from that shame with this book and be able to share their story with someone. So I wrote the book. I told my story. I told how I got over, and I told about my journey, but I wanted something else. So I wanted them to be able to share, to voice what's going on. Because oftentimes when people be like, hey, how you doing? You don't really tell them about it, what's really going on with you, right? And I used to tell people in the beginning, I don't feel right, because I really couldn't describe this what was going on in my soul. But I don't feel good. If someone called me on my phone and say, hey, you want to come somewhere? I wasn't going out of the house. I just said, oh, I don't feel good today. So all these things, all these secret deformities, I'm not verbalizing. So I wanted to create a way for people to be able to self-reflect, to dig into your own emotions and your own habits that you created to help you. Such as, for example, OCD. A lot of people don't try to classify this version of OCD as a really mental health disorder, but you have people who like to clean obsessively. That is a part of anxiety. That's something you do because it makes you feel okay. It makes you feel good. But now it's to you normalized it and it's a habit. So,
right. So, and the root, and you have to get to the root of it. And
yes.
there's always a root to the anxiety. What is it that this thing is
that alarmed your soul?
Right. What is the result of? And so, a lot of times, I like to keep, because I do have I do focus on mental health issues. I am a counselor. One of the things, because sometimes we try to make things complicated, and I like to say anxiety is just a place that you end up in when you want to have control over something, but don't have the ability to.
All right, I like it. I love
it. So, that cleaning, it speaks to something bigger.
Right. You're uncomfortable.
What are you trying to control? It might be, I'm a germophobic, I need to try to make sure that my space is always clean. And so you go through this ritual over and over and over and over again. But what is at the heart of that? Even that, you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper.
You are so right.
For me, I have suffered from anxiety, and I have suffered from panic attacks. And I know for me, the anxiety often, I can admit it now, the anxiety often for me was me having the need to control something and not being able to do it. And that was the bottom line. I shared with you before we even started the interview that I know the South. I know 95 so well because, my family and I, we used to drive everywhere because I didn't like to fly. I didn't like to fly because when I got on the plane, I felt there was a loss of control.
Yeah.
But listen, we don't really have control over anything anyway.
Yeah.
So, I had to come to the realization that you have no more control or less control in that plane than you do in that car. But for me, it was like, oh my God, I'm in this plane and I'm stuck in this plane for 3 hours. And, it just became overwhelming. And, I like to tell people something that's a little dot becomes this huge, massive thing.
Yes.
When we begin to focus in on it so much and realize, oh my gosh, you know what, we can't control this. And we have this huge desire to control it, but we really can't control it.
I love it. And you are right. What you stated about having to figure out like where it comes from, what triggered you. And I remember when I first had that, my initial panic attack, I went to the hospital and in the same hospital I worked in, but they told me that I was stressed out. So they said, you're stressed, go get some rest. But I didn't feel stressed. Like I was telling them I'm not stressed out. I didn't have any reason in my life at that particular time to be stressed. So, but there's, get some rest. So then I went home and I got some rest. I woke up and I felt like I needed another day of rest, then another week, and then it turned into months of rest and no recovery. So I went to the hospital so many times because I was feeling those panic attacks. I thought I was having a heart attack. I mean, all of these symptoms, my stomach couldn't stop hurting. I mean, I had all of these things. I just knew I was dying. So I would go into the emergency room and say, I am dying, and no one's listening.
So for someone who may have never experienced a panic attack or understand the physiological responses that take place in your body as a result of a panic attack, can you explain like how you feel with the onset of it and then kind of as you go through it?
So, and this is based off my experience as well as, as I went along, learning of others. So anxiety and panic attacks, I look at them as two different things. A panic attack can come on so sudden, out of the blue, randomly, or you can kind of feel your body getting uneasy, and you can learn to know that, okay, it's about to happen. All right. So I've had instances before I was stopped going to school. I would be sitting in class going, and the teacher's talking, and all of a sudden I feel this feeling, and I know now something is wrong. I feel an alarm in me, and now I can't breathe, or it literally feels like someone's choking you. So that's where I got the title from. So, someone's choking you. You can be real bad stomach pains. You just got this stomach ache. Like people say, butterflies in their stomach.
Mm-hmm.
You can have arm pain. It can really simulate a heart attack. That's why a lot of people I worked in the hospital over these 20 years. So I still had a lot of people come into the emergency room, into the hospital, claiming they're having heart attacks. And it's not a heart attack. It's a panic attack because it replicates. You have the arm pain, you have chest pain. So when an individual feel they have chest pain, they like, oh no, I'm having a heart attack. So you can be flushed in your skin. You can sweat, just your whole body wet, nasty.
In a matter of seconds.
Yes, all of a sudden. And you cannot think. You cannot think. So people are talking to you, and in the book signing, I had people who was really expressing their anxiety and their panic attacks. Then they had family members who express how they're trying to care for this person while they're having a panic attack, and they're talking to them and talking to them and talking to them. But at that moment, you can't even get your thoughts together because
Right.
all you know is that, oh my God, what is happening? I am struggling. I'm going to die. That's the whole thing. I'm going to die. So
Absolutely. I can remember one of the first times I had it. Now I look back at it, and it's like almost like an out of body experience.
yes,
If that makes sense to you. Like
it
you're
does.
seeing yourself go through it, and it's just such a weird feeling. But you're right. There's so many responses that someone may have been having panic attacks and not even realizing,
Yeah.
or had one and not even realize that's what it is. So literally, like you described, you get hot, and you literally go from being your body temperature and everything feeling fine, you feel good, to all of a sudden you're hot, you're sweating, and
Wedding.
I mean, like the water is dripping. It's blurry, like you can see but you can't see.
Yeah. You can't
um
focus in on
you
nothing.
can have tingling kind of throughout your body,
Yes. Your
uh,
hands and your
your hands,
legs, your feet.
your feet.
Yes.
You're breathing but you can't breathe,
Mhm.
because your body, it's like your mind and your body are not one at that point. And
Yep.
so it's like it's fighting against each other
Mhm.
almost. Like I said, it's almost like an out of body
It
experience.
is.
And this is happening, and you're kind of looking at yourself from the outside as you're going through it. It's such a weird experience.
Oh my
For
goodness. You
those of
nailed
you
it.
who have never experienced it. And so you have this first panic attack, you go to the hospital, they tell you to get some rest. But for
Woo.
you, 3 months later, are you continuing to have these now on a regular basis?
During the 3 months, I went to the hospital several times. Let me tell you what stopped me from seeking help. I stopped seeking help. I repeatedly went to the hospital. I went to different hospitals. And it's something because a young lady told me Saturday she's been to 6 hospitals trying to get help. And the last one, the 6th hospital, the doctor himself dealt with anxiety. That's when he started
Mm.
sharing it with her. 6th hospital later. I think I probably made my 4th time. So going to the hospital repeatedly, my last time in the hospital, the last time I verbalized that I was having these feelings to a professional at that time was because I went to the emergency room again, and I had my kids with me because I didn't have no one to watch them, so I had my kids with me, and the doctor, she was a female, she said, she told me that she seen that I had been there previously, right? And they couldn't find anything physically wrong with me, because they do the cardiac test and all of that. So the labs, everything came back fine. So she's like, well, Shakita, everything's coming back fine. We can't see anything physically wrong with you. We know you were just here previously this month. So she said, well, look, there's nothing physically wrong with you, but if you come back here, we're going to admit you. We're going to keep you, and you're going to have to go to the psych floor. And now this is me. I'm a single mom. I'm young. I'm a very young adult. And I don't know what's going on with me, but I know something is going on with me. But I still have kids that I have to take care of. So once she told me that they was going to admit me, and she gave me medication, but she told me they was going to admit me, I never went back in there again. Never. That was it. That was the last time I was going to seek professional help. And what I did, I started then reading everything that I can find. When I was able to come back out of the house, I went to the library at least twice a week. Me and my kids would go to the library, and I would look at books, because people keep saying, yeah, you got anxiety. And even the people in church would say, hey, don't be anxious for nothing. But hey, I am anxious. So I need help at this point. I'm anxious. What do you mean don't be anxious for nothing? I don't think I should be anxious for nothing, but I got these weird feelings that I don't know how to deal with. So I went to the library a minimum of twice a week with my kids to learn about anxiety, so I can seeking to find recovering books, because I couldn't find them anywhere. I didn't find them at church at that time. I didn't find it in the hospitals. I couldn't find it nowhere. Nobody I knew was dealing with it. So I couldn't find it. So I started on my own mission. So I read book after book after book after book, because I wanted to, is it something that I can do? But I learned along the way different things about why you have anxiety. And that's another thing you mentioned, like finding out what's wrong. At that time, I didn't think nothing was wrong with me. I had a lot of traumas when I was a kid. And I grew up thinking that I was doing well, that I didn't let my traumas affect my life. That I was doing well. My mom on drugs, don't know who my dad was at that particular time. House to house, place to place, crack houses, you can name it. Being raped, having a kid at 13, so many traumas on top of traumas. And I grew up thinking that I was okay. And one day, my emotions came calling for me. One day, everything, all the traumas that I had been through came calling for me when I thought I was okay. So with sharing this story, I wanted to be able to share it with people who are having these issues, or know someone that's having the issues, and they want some hope. They want some, see how they can help themselves and how they can learn about themselves, but they don't got time to read a 5,000-page novel. So I purposely made sure that the book was big enough for even my teenage daughters, my college daughters, their college age friends, to be able to pick up something because they need it now and they don't need to read the novel. So I wanted to purposely make it a short story. You grab it, you dig into it, get out of it what you can get out of it to apply it to your life. And later on, that's when I learned that, hey, maybe those traumas, not maybe, but those traumas from a kid affected me at a moment that I thought my life was okay. I thought I was doing good, but I end up being on a journey paying for all of the traumas that I had when I was a kid. So I wanted to make sure that young people could be able to quickly pick this book up and read it for their own life and be able to share their own story. Hence, the journal is created it's just writing prompts to learn who you are. How do you feel when you have anxiety? What do you do when you feel anxious? Have you told anyone? What's your habits, your sleeping habits? Do you exercise? What makes you feel okay? So then they can
stop you right there because I want to go. I want to take a break, but when we come back, I want to go into a little bit more about the journal. And I want to also try to help people distinguish between a diagnosis of anxiety versus I'm a little anxious, because
Yes.
they're not quite
Yes.
they're not quite the same. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back real soon.
Okay.
All right, so welcome back. We're here with Shakita Jackson, and she is sharing her story about overcoming anxiety and panic attacks. This is a real subject. This is a real issue. As I say, mental health is real, and we need to get more comfortable with talking about it so that people can begin the process of understanding it and begin the process of healing
Yes.
from it. And so we were talking about panic attacks, and we both kind of described how you feel when you're going through a panic attack, and there's this whole, physiological response, and it is a very, very overwhelming feeling. You talked about how the people talked about having to witness, a friend or a loved one have a panic attack. And I think about the times that, my husband has witnessed it and one of my friends witnessed it. And they were like, it was just so crazy. Like, you just went from being normal to just like out of control. Like, it was just like, because it just happened so quickly. But there is anxiety, which is like a normal level of anxiety. Like, you get a little anxious, you get butterflies in your stomach before you're about to do a presentation for work, or as a minister, before you go to bring forth the word, you can be nervous and you get the butterflies and all of that. So we're not talking about that kind of anxiety. We're talking about, just want to give I like to keep things very simple so that people can really understand it. So a simple definition for anxiety is intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Okay. And with that, you may or may not have extreme physiological responses, but the worry and the concern is always there with you. And so it could be an initial situation where you are worried about finances. That's something we all, so many of us worry about, is how the bill's going to get paid. How are we going to get this money for something? So initially, it's a concern. You have a bill that's $1,000. You have 500.
Oh, yeah.
There might be a little bit of a reason to be concerned. But then when you are excessively worried about it to the point where that is all that you can focus on, and it prevents you from living out your daily activities because of this worry, then you go from a regular, okay, I'm a little anxious, to now you're suffering from an anxiety. And what tends to happen is that anxiety, that little dot, that little speck that I like to talk about one area, then starts to unfortunately kind of consume all the areas of your life. In many cases, it's no longer just about the finances. It's now, well, oh my God, now it's my health. I'm worried about my health. But it makes sense though, because when we have excessive worry and anxiety and stress about anything, it will begin to impact our health. And so what happens then with anxiety is you get this snowball effect, where one little area that was once an area of concern now has become a major area of concern, and now your whole life is filled with.
You're consumed.
Did I do a good job of trying?
You did a perfect job. You get an A+.
Well, thank you. Listen, I like being a good student. See, and I say that jokingly, but here's the thing. So much of what we were taught in the foundation from being younger impacts how we respond to life situations now. So I had to come to realize that part of my anxiety comes from a place of perfectionism.
Yeah, that's very common.
of perfectionism comes to a large degree and a large extent from my mom. And that's not to put any blame on her, but my mom used to always tell me, don't do anything unless you do it 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Don't, she would say things like, I don't care what career or what you decide to do in life, just make sure you do it in excellence.
Ooh, so you sought excellence.
So I sought excellence in everything. Okay. And she was, in particular, she was a stickler about school and education.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have so many degrees to a large extent.
There you go. Yeah.
To a large extent, that's why and I'm still in school like you. Because in my mind was ingrained that you've got to be perfect at it. You've got to do it right. And so there became this anxiety around doing it right. And so I put this overwhelming amount of pressure on myself to be able to perform at 1,000 all the time.
Yeah.
To the point where if I had any concern that I couldn't perform at 1,000, I wouldn't perform at all.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
So I want to be able to have people really understand, like, this anxiety thing is real, but a lot of it comes from things that have occurred previously in our lives. That's why I say you got to get to the heart of the matter.
And it can be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years prior. But one day, because it was not dealt with, it's coming.
It's coming for you. And it's coming. Exactly. It's coming for you. And it's important that you understand and be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
To dig a little bit deeper to figure out, where is this coming from? And so this book is out and you have the journal, which is really important because first of all, writing is therapeutic in nature, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just writing the book brings some form of healing. And what I like is that you've added this journal, because as people read your story and your testimony, then they're able to go and respond and begin the process of writing and begin to kind of pick apart and think things through about how is it that I'm getting anxiety, at this point in my life? What are the things that have impacted me that, I'm having panic attacks, at this point in my life? And so I love the journal aspect of it. So let's go back and start. I want you to talk a little bit more about this 3-month process of you being in the house.
Yes.
That for me is
my own prison. That's the title is from my own imprisonment.
And I've suffered from anxiety, but not to the point where it impacted me on that level. So talk to, because let me take a step back. We're on KPTV, right? Kingdom Purpose TV. This is a Christian-based platform, right? Yet we have 2 women of God who believe in God firmly. And at the point where I began to suffer from my panic attacks, I had already identified as Christian and being a believer in God. So let me be clear on that, okay? So we hear things, within the body, like you said, but the word tells you don't be anxious for anything, but through prayer and supplication, let your request be known unto God. My daughter, you just need to go before God and you just need to pray.
Yes.
We hear those kinds of
checked off all of that.
All of that. Or, when we're suffering from depression or anxiety and, we go to the doctor, we have the nerve and the courage to get to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes the medication. And then we, divulge to a family member or to a church member, to someone, okay, yeah, and they say, girl, you don't need that medication.
What you worried for?
Listen, you don't need, listen, you just need to go before God and pray. So that's why I really want people to understand that these issues with mental health, these issues with anxiety, depression, panic. It's real. It is no different than any other medical issue
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
And so, as a body of believers, we really got to get a better handle on this so that people can begin the process of healing. I just had to get that out.
Yes. You know, one thing that I realized that we forget the word in itself. Oftentimes people forget that the Bible has answers, it has circumstances, it has experiences from every walk of life. There were people in the Bible that were anxious, that were depressed, that were suicidal. And these people loved God. They heard from God. We quote their writings. We quote their life all the time. But they still had moments where they had to deal with some issues. So you can't say that, yes, you know, you love God, so you shouldn't have these issues, because we're going to have the same issues as people in the world. But we need to learn how to help people and learn how to have real compassion and allow people to share their ugly feelings. Not just saying, oh, you know, cast your cares on the Lord. You know, no, I've went to God, you know, I've prayed, I've read the scripture, I've done everything I can think of in my natural mind, but I still have a problem.
Right.
I still got a problem, you know. So how do you help people through the problem? How do you help people find an answer? And like you mentioned, you may have anxiety, but never have a panic attack. You don't have to have both. You may have anxiety because, like you say, those natural things may disturb you or worry you sometimes. But when it comes to the point that you cannot function, when it comes to the point that you can no longer quiet your mind, you have a problem. You cannot come to a still place in yourself, and you feel like you've got to run to these emergency rooms. You have a problem. And in that house, I was stuck in that house because I literally every day felt like I was going to die. I mean, I think I had all the body symptoms. You know, I couldn't get my mind together. And everyone on the outside to say, girl, get some rest. Girl, you just stressed out. Take these pills and they're going to help you. Take these pills for this diagnosis you gave me, but you never told me anything about a diagnosis. You didn't tell me how I can help myself in the diagnosis. You didn't tell me how long, like, is this something temporary? How long is this supposed to last? You know, you didn't tell me anything. Is this terminal like cancer? You didn't tell me nothing.
Right,
You just give me pills. Like, so all these things going on. And I literally for months could not get up. I used to crawl room to room because I can't breathe. I can't get up. I'm barely taking care of my children. We're in the house together. You know, they're getting provided for, but I'm still not 100% there. You know, even with them, you know, everyone's safe and everything, but I'm still not 100% there. But in that house hiding because I tried to seek help. I sought help from people that I hoped would pray for me or help provide an answer, and they still quote the same scriptures. You know, I sought help from doctors and everything else, and I still was struggling. So I was locked in that house because I was so ashamed of how I was feeling. I'm a believer. I believe that God can do anything. But why am I feeling this way? I am ashamed. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to tell the church, to stand up and say, to tell everybody that I'm dealing with something that, you know, I thought that I had the tools to deal with because I'm a believer.
Because after all, you know, I'm a believer. I know the words. You know what? I can give it to you just as good as you can give it to me.
Right.
So what's wrong with me that despite my love for God and despite
I'm still struggling.
Knowledge, I'm still struggling. So how did you begin? I don't want you to give the book away, but you know,
how come out the house? How come out the house?
How did I come out the house?
Okay. Yes. So look, I got so tired of being tired, and I got so determined that I couldn't let my kids live that way no more. You know, they were missing all the birthday parties, everything that they were invited to because mama couldn't make it. You know, I was denying every invitation that was sent. Anything after school, they couldn't go to that either because I couldn't function. So I got tired of, even if I was in my prison, but I got tired of them being in theirs because they were in there with me.
Yes.
So I needed them to be free. I felt like it was an injustice to keep them in there, even though I feel like I can't go out. So really praying, really trying to figure out how am I going to do this? Because when I open the screen door, I can't breathe. Like I'm just engulfed with emotions and feelings when I open the door. So I literally, God is my witness, opened my door one day and I said, I'm going to make it to my car. If I can just make it to my car, step by step, let me make it to my car. I sat on that porch for a while, trying to get beyond my mind and my thoughts and me feeling like, you know, I have chest pain and I can't breathe. I'm hyperventilating on the porch. And I'm like, nobody see me hyperventilating on the porch. So it's like baby crawled my way to the car, and I got to the car and I was like, okay, that was a small victory. It was small victory after small victory. I got to the car. I ended up starting the car up. I got down the block. I was like, let me see if I can make it to the corner store. Got to the corner store without a panic attack. Okay, you know, let me see if I can make it a little further. And I started getting in my car and I started driving. It was a few weeks later. I was like, you know, I'm gonna see if I can make it to work, because surprisingly, I still had a job. Thank God. But I'm going to see if I can make it to work. And I drove to work, and I worked far ways from home anyway. I worked 45 minutes from home. But I tell you, that 45-minute drive to work turned into 2.5 hours of me trying to make it to work, because in between I would have panic attacks and I would stay in the right lane in case I had to pull over and have a panic attack. So baby step by baby step, baby step by baby step, I ended up making it so that I could function while I was still trying to figure out, doing my own research, as you'll see in the reading the book. And what finally broke it is in the book. But yes. What God did for me is miraculously. It is a miracle that I wrote the book, and when the book came and I got my first copy, I'm skimming through it, right? So I'm looking through it and I'm like, even to right now, Gwen, this is me. Like, this is me. Like, this girl in this book is crazy. But she felt crazy. But this is my real life story. And I look at where God has me at now and where I was then. Oh my goodness.
Praise God. Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, we have an expression, we'd be like, you know, he'll do it if you let him. But you know, you said baby steps. Mm-hmm. But the key is steps. See, the word of God, you know, does have the power to transform our lives. God has the power to transform our lives. But faith without the work, you have to be willing to do the work. And that requires the digging deep that so many of us don't want to do.
Uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable. We don't want to face those traumas and those things of the past that have us in this place of stuck, that have us in this place of depression and worry and anxiety. But for us to attain and become everything that God wants for us, we have to
become the living word.
We have to do it. The word has power, but it doesn't get activated until we activate it. We have to do some work. And so obviously you did the work. And as a result of doing the work, you are where you are now. So before we end, can you share how people can get in contact with you, your social media pages, all of that kind of stuff. If you have a website, put that out there for us.
Yeah. So my website is www.sjglobal.me. Again, www.sjglobal.me. My Instagram is the same, sjglobal.me. You can get the book there. You can get the journal as well on my website.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for being transparent. Like I said, this is an area that I am extremely passionate about. Mental health is a real health issue, and we need to do everything within our power to begin to address the challenges that so many people are facing as it relates to mental health. It is a real issue. It is a real problem, and we as a body have to do a better job of handling it and dealing with it. And so for those who might be struggling, know that it is okay to have what I say, Jesus and therapy.
Oh, yeah.
It is okay to be a believer and still need to be in therapy. So if that is you, know that it is okay to seek out help. And if you go to seek out help and you don't get it, go and knock somewhere else until you can get what it is that you need, until you can get what it is that you are looking for. Know that you can always reach me on social media through Success Arise or through my name, Gwen Gooseby Tillery. Keita has given you her information as well. Find someone that you can connect with. Find someone that you can talk to. Because, one of my favorite scriptures is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. See, but when we lose hope, we don't see any future. So the key is that we've got to stay hopeful. And sometimes to do that, we've got to connect with people that can help to keep our hope alive. And so reach out to someone. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel less than. God has a plan for you, okay? So follow through and get the help that is needed. So thank you again for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Yes, and looking forward to being able to connect with you on some other things as well. So take care.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. Are you tired of being stuck? Are you tired of year after year making goals and plans to accomplish something and it just doesn't seem to happen? Are you tired of not being supported in your dreams and your goals and your vision? Well, I have an opportunity for you. I want you to consider becoming a member of Success Arise Academy. This is a membership that is designed with you in mind. It provides education, inspiration, and transformation for you to be able to achieve those goals and become everything it is that God has created you to be. This is a membership program designed for women to be able to also come together and encourage and support one another. So if this sounds like something that you're looking to be a part of, I want you to visit www.successarise.com because it is time for you to move from stuck to unstoppable.